Hi friends, welcome to today's video. Today I thought we would do a wrap up of what I read in January and February. I would 100% say that the last 2 months have been excellent reading months for me because I finished uni last year. I think this year I've sort of just dived. I sort of just dived. What? Divin? I've sort of just dived headfirst into reading because I really missed it. I mean, I still read 40 books last year, but as of the last 2 months, I have already read 19 books. So I've already read half of what I read the entirety of last year, which is actually insane, and I could probably stand to slow down, but this is my TBR card and as you can see it's still extremely full. What else am I supposed to do with my time? So a great couple of reading months, and I did 2 challenges. I did one 24-hour reading challenge and then I did my Spotify challenge, which was last week's video. If you haven't seen that, go check that out. And so that was about 48 hours of dedicated reading time where I think I read about 7 or 8 books. That's pretty insane. Let me start with the first book I read in January. The first book I read was The No-Show by Beth O'Leary. This one I picked up for a challenge that my friend Jasmine helped me with. She picked out 2 books that she thought I might like, and this was one of them. This was the romance that she picked. I think I enjoyed this. Dude, I can't remember shit. I gave this 3.75 stars. It has been 2 months and I have the memory of a goldfish, so let's see how much I can remember. This follows 3 women who at the beginning of the book are all stood up by this guy. It turns out to be the same guy who is standing up all 3 of these women. Some of them end up dating him, whatever. And then you find out some things and things become clear as to what's happening. But for most of the book, I was honestly like, what the f is happening? How is this guy dating 3 women? This guy is a pig. And I think that really hurt my view of this book, right? Because I did not like the guy. And any romantic issues or things that were happening for all 3 of the women, I was like, you don't want to be with this guy. I don't like him. Get away from him. Go find a new guy. But this is not your typical romance, and I would definitely recommend it if you still want to read a romance, but you're sort of like sick of the typical romance plotline. It still has a lot of that in there, but some surprises, some fun, different things. That was the first book I read in January. The next book I read was Butter by Asako Yuzuki. This one I rated 2 stars, and the only reason I read this was for my book club. I'm part of like 3 book clubs, so this book was for one of them. And I did borrow it from the library, but I ended up just listening to it because it was painful. It was so painful to read and I just was not enjoying myself. So I listened to the rest of the book on like 1.5 times speed, and it's a long book. My main qualm with this book was the fact that it was so long and it felt extremely repetitive. Like the point that the book is trying to make was made within the first like 100 pages. I'll put it up here for how long it went for. I can't even remember exactly, but a long ass time. I just did not have fun. I appreciate what it was saying about Japanese culture and the expectations that are set on Japanese women, but it was made within the first 100 pages and I was just sick of it by the end of it. This book is about Rika. She is a journalist and she gets the opportunity to speak with a serial killer and gourmet cook, Manako Kaji. So the book is marketed as a book about a serial killer who would lure her victims, which were all men, like seduce them and then, you know, give them her cooking, and she would kill them and poison them with her food. Okay, that's what it's marketed as. And she refuses to talk to any journalist, and then for some reason she decides, yes, I want to talk to Rika. So that's what it's marketed as. That is not what it's about at all. You don't really find out much. I would say this is about food and cooking and women in Japanese society and the struggles they go through. Very different to what it is marketed as. And even like the synopsis on the back of the book is quite misleading. And there was also a scene that was quite disgusting and actually just ruined my entire week when I had to listen to it in the car on the way to work. It was so feral that no, it ruined everything. And also it weirdly describes food and cooking in quite like a sexual, or even maybe just sensual, but sometimes it was quite sexual. And I was like, who thinks about food like this, and who describes food and butter like this? A lot about butter, which makes sense because the book is called Butter. Anyways, enough about that book. I rated it 2 stars. I would not recommend it. It's only 2 stars because of the overall message it was trying to convey, and I appreciated that, but the rest of it was just awful. The next book I read was The Order of Masks by Alina Bell Chambers. This was another one of the books that Jasmine picked out for her challenge, and this was the fantasy choice. I had never heard of this author, never heard of this book, and I'm very glad that Jasmine ended up picking it to read because I thoroughly enjoyed this. I gave it 4 stars. Unfortunately, my memory does fail me once again, but I do know that it's dual POV. It's about Mira and Scarlett, and it's in their POVs, and Mira is a circus performer and Scarlett is a princess. Their stories and paths sort of cross and they get to know each other, and there's trials, there is plot twists, there's really cool, fun magic systems, and I would definitely recommend, especially as this is an Australian author, and I would like to start trying to get more into Australian authors, or at least support Australian authors. I have ordered the second book. This is a duology, and it should be coming any day now, so I will be very excited to continue reading. And then I read Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. I do own this book, but I am lending it to someone, so don't have it with me right now. This was my first 5-star read of the year. This book is insane. I read it in a day, about a day, for my 24-hour reading challenge. This book follows Shakespeare and his family. So Shakespeare had 3 children, Susanna, Hamnet, and Judith. And Judith and Hamnet are twins. And it follows their life while Shakespeare is going off and, you know, starting his career, building his legacy, while they're stuck at home and they don't see him like ever, maybe once or twice a year. I read this because of the movie that came out with Paul Mescal and Jessie Buckley, which won so many awards. I'm so proud of that movie. It is just stunning. Brilliant movie. Even more heartbreaking than the book. This is not a spoiler. We know that Hamnet dies, and it is about the family going through this unfathomable loss and grief, and it is just so raw and so human. It's a stunning, stunning piece of work, and I cried, obviously, so much. If you want to see me cry, go watch my 24-hour reading challenge. 5 stars. Very, very good read. The next book I read was One Golden Summer by Carly Fortune. This is my first Carly Fortune book, and it's a romance, obviously a summer romance. This was the second book I read in the 24-hour reading challenge, and I had a lot of fun with it. I read it in a day. So we got the main female character. Her name is Alice. She's a photographer, I think, and she goes with her grandmother, who is recovering from a fall. Yeah. So they go to the lake house that they used to go to when Alice was younger, and she meets Charlie, and they start a little something where, you know, Alice is feeling, I think, stuck at work, and so she makes this like summer bucket list, and Charlie helps her complete everything on the bucket list, and they might fall in love. It's really cute, it's really nice, and it's a very good summer read, so I would definitely recommend that. And it's quick, not too complicated, obviously. I think I rated it 4.25 stars. The next book is another one that I am lending to someone, but I read My Friends by Fredrik Backman, also in the 24-hour reading challenge. This was insane. This is Fredrik Backman's latest release. It is, I would say, literary fiction, but just the way that Fredrik Backman writes people and writes their story and who they are, like fundamentally, every single character has so many layers. They are not one-dimensional. They are so complex and just utterly human, and it's just stunning to read about. And I really enjoyed this. This is about a girl, I think her name's Louisa. Louisa? Did I just make that up? No, I didn't make that up. This is about Louisa, and she has had a rough childhood. She is obsessed with this painting that really spoke to her and really got her through some tough times. So she goes to the art gallery and sneaks in just to look at the painting in person, and she ends up meeting the artist, and we hear the story behind the painting from the artist and his friends. That does not cover the story at all, because no words except for what is written in the book like Fredrik Backman himself can properly convey what this book is. This was 5 stars as well, which I was very surprised to have 2 5-star reads in one challenge. It was very good. The last physical book I read in January was Better in Black by Cassandra Clare. This is just 10 short stories of Shadowhunter romance. So you see all your favorite characters from all of the millions of Shadowhunter books. I rated this 3.5 stars. Like, it was fun to read, but not my favorite. But it was really nice to hang out with my favorite characters again. And the last book I read in January was The Housemaid. I actually listened to this, and I only read it because the movie was coming out. And I was like, if I don't read this before watching the movie, I'm never going to read it. So yeah, I gave it 2.5 stars. I did not enjoy my time. My review says, like, this was fine, but I don't really get the hype, and literally had to bump it down 0.5 star for how utterly annoying Millie was. Millie is the main character. That is Sydney Sweeney's character. She is very annoying. The movie was okay. I definitely liked the choices they made to change from the book to the movie, just for like entertainment's sake, but I just don't think I like the story. It's not a very good thriller in my eyes. But you know, if you're first getting into thrillers, I would recommend reading it, just because it is fast paced. It just wasn't really impressive to me. That is everything I read in January. Now we're heading into February. I read Nora Goes Off Script by Annabelle Monaghan. I went into a lot of detail in the video where I was reading this about my thoughts, but I'll just give a quick summary. I rated this 3 stars. I thought it was fine, but it definitely could have been better, and it definitely could have been improved if it was longer. It is literally 257 pages. That's nothing. That is not enough time to flesh out 2 characters and make me believe in their love story. I just really didn't care and thought one of the plot points was kind of dumb. Yeah, that's all I'll say about that one. The next book I read was The Bright Years by Sarah Dalmoff. I loved this book with all my heart. I gave it 4.75 stars. The only reason it's not 5 stars is because it is also quite a short book, and I would have loved more time with the characters just because I didn't really feel connected to them. And so even though it was utterly heartbreaking and just soul destroying, I just wish we had more time, because I didn't cry. And that made me sad. I almost cried at the end. It was very, very moving. This book follows a family throughout multiple generations and just pretty much their lives and their struggles with things like addiction, mental health, grief. Yeah, potentially look up trigger warnings for this. I mean, those are probably the trigger warnings of what I just said, but I love when books explore complex family dynamics. I think it is very important to see humans who struggle with things like addiction through a human lens, like to see their childhoods and, you know, the reasons for why they might do the things that they do, even though it doesn't excuse them. I think it was a stunning book. I just wish I had more time to connect with the characters, but otherwise 4.75 stars is very good. The next book I read, I actually listened to again. This is the Zodiac Academy book 1. I am listening to this series just because I want to see what the hype is about. I gave this book 2.5 stars, or 2 stars. Yeah, not even 2.5. I gave it 2 stars. I thought it was juvenile, dumb, like not quality at all. However, I had a lot of fun listening to it. I listened to the graphic audio. That was really fun. For no reason. And even though I was like, this is objectively bad, I still want to continue the series because it's just like, you know, when you watch reality TV and you know that it's bad, but you're just like, I want to keep watching it. This is like that. So you're following 2 twin sisters, Tori and Darcy, and they are just living their lives trying to make it after being kicked out of their foster home at 18. And this random guy comes and he's like, hey, you need to come with me. And they're like, why would we go with you? He's like, come with me. And he like compels them because he has magic and he's a vampire. He compels them and takes them to the Zodiac Academy, where they learn that they're actually magical as well. And yeah, they go to school there, they meet friends, they're like terrorized by the boys. Yeah, it's just trashy, but it's fun. That was one of the books I listened to in February. The next book I read was Us Against You by Fredrik Backman. I borrowed this from the library and I read this in like 5 days because I didn't realize that I had to return it so quickly because it's so popular. This book hurt me. I rated it 4.75 stars. This is the second book in the Beartown trilogy and I rated Beartown 5 stars and I've read that twice. Us Against You is like the continuation of what happened in the last book. I think that the series could have ended there, but Fredrik Backman, something about his writing, I'm like, yeah, let's keep going. Like, sure. So Beartown is about this small town called Beartown. How many times can I say town? And they love hockey. Pretty much it is about the hockey team, the high school hockey team, because if they get into the finals, they can really boost the economy for Beartown. And it's like a lot riding on some teenagers playing hockey, but everyone really cares so much about them and wants them to win, and a lot is just thrown into hockey, but it also explores the consequences of that and so many different things like family, grief, being a survivor of sexual assault, toxic masculinity, so many things, like everything you could probably think of. It is just indescribable, really, and I would recommend just diving headfirst into Beartown and reading it. But yes, I gave this 4.75 stars and I loved it. The next book I listened to was The Unworthy by Agustina Bazterrica. This was awful. Okay, I had to read this for book club again. I am very sorry to who picked this, but I despised it. I'll just read the synopsis. In the house of the sacred sisterhood, the unworthy live in fear of the superior sister's whip. In an atmosphere of constant threat and intense rivalry, they plot against each other and wait to see who will ascend to the level of the enlightened and who will suffer the next exemplary punishment. It's set in this post-apocalyptic world, and somehow they're all surviving in this one convent? I don't know. They're all surviving somehow. And I could not even tell you what happens in this book. I just did not enjoy it. And I thought it was like gross just for the sake of being like shocking and just weird. Just weird. Don't read this. I then read The Summer I Turned Pretty by Jenny Han. I rated it 3 stars. I did enjoy my time reading it, but it is YA and it was written almost 20 years ago, which is crazy. But I did enjoy sort of seeing the characters from the show as they were originally written. Some of the lines were really cringy and I was just like, okay, but it was really short. Yeah, nice summer vibe. Oh, I'm over it and I need to go to work. So I'm going to go really fast in the next couple books. I then read Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. In this book, we follow Mare, and there are two types of classes, the reds and the silvers, and the silvers are the elite and the reds are not. The silvers have powers and the reds do not. The reds are commoners ruled by a silver elite in possession of godlike powers, and to 17-year-old Mare, a red girl from the poverty-stricken stilts, it seems like nothing will ever change. But Mare possesses a deadly power of her own, one that threatens to destroy the balance of power. Fearful of her potential, the Silvers hide Mare in plain view, declaring her a long-lost Silver Princess. Knowing that one false move will mean her death, Mare must use her new position to bring down the regime from the inside. I did guess one of the plot twists, and I didn't feel convinced by the romance. I don't know if I had like drifted off or like was not paying attention for some of it, but it sort of was like, oh, they're in love now? When did that happen? They've barely spoken and they've barely expressed that they love each other. Yeah, I gave this one, I think 3.75 stars. Yes, and I was very glad to get this off my TBR because it has been there for over 10 years. And I wasn't excited to read this, but I did enjoy it a lot more than I thought I would. I have 4 more books to review, but I do have to go to work, and this is taking longer than I thought. So I will be back. It might be darker, but I'll be back. Okay. Okay, I'm back from work. It's many hours later. And it's nighttime. Use the lighting. So the next one I read was Kill for Me, Kill for You by Steve Kavanagh. This one was also for one of my book clubs, and I thoroughly enjoyed my time with this. I have read many thrillers, and it is hard for a thriller to impress me simply because it needs to be clever. If it's just got a bunch of random plot twists that don't make any sense, I'm just like, okay, why do I care? Or I don't like when they do a cop-out and make it like supernatural when we're in like a normal modern world. It's like, that's just stupid. This book was very, very well thought out. So we're following Amanda. You get actually quite a few point of views in this book, but you're following Amanda and she meets this woman, Wendy, at a grief counseling group. Amanda has gone through the worst thing you could maybe ever go through, and she has this guy that she just knows is the man that did this to her daughter and just ruined her life. She's been caught a couple times stalking him, even though he hasn't been prosecuted or whatever. There's no real evidence that has come forth that this man is the guy that did this. So she's sort of sent to this group therapy for grief against her will a little bit, and she meets this other woman who has also gone through terrible things, and they both want to kill someone, and they come up with a plan to kill each other's kills, do each other's murders. There we go. That's the main plot. It's awesome. It's really good. Really clever. Yeah, I would say that this is my favorite thriller to date. It would have been 5 stars if we had more time to connect with the characters, and I guess it being a thriller, that's not really something that is prioritized for the author. It was just like fun, and like I appreciated it for its plot and the twists and the whole story, and yeah, would definitely recommend this one. The next book I read is People We Meet on Vacation. I'm going to talk about this in another video, but I will say I gave it 4.75 stars. Really enjoyed it, and I now have officially finished every single Emily Henry book that she's released. Oh wait, no I haven't. She has like a little bit of a backlist. I haven't read any of those, but I've read every single one of her popular ones. So that's People We Meet on Vacation, Beach Read, Book Lovers, Happy Place, Funny Story, and Great Big Beautiful Life. Thoroughly enjoyed this. Next, I listened to Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. I am also talking about this in another video, so I won't go too into that. I will say that it's my second time reading it, so this time I listened, and also because I haven't read it for 10 years. I read it when I was 15 for some reason, so we'll talk about that in another video. And the last book I got to in January and February is The Book of Doors by Gareth Brown. This was insane. I am very happy that I finally got to this book. I don't think I would have gotten to it for a little while if it weren't for the TBR jar that made me pick this book. I gave it 4.75 stars. I just thought it was genius. The plotting, and I don't even know. This is 400 pages and a story is introduced, the conflict happens, and then it's resolved all in one book. It doesn't feel rushed. It doesn't feel bad at all. It's completely appropriately fleshed out. Every character is explored in depth. Things are explained and they make sense. It's very creative as well, I feel. I don't think I know of any other story that is like this one, or magic system that's like this one. I think it's very cool, and it went to a place that I was not expecting, and I loved it. And I thought it was so clever. So this is about Cassie. She works at a bookshop, and one day she is working and she's talking to this old man, Mr. Weber, who comes in every day. He's a regular and sort of just sits and chills with her until it's closing time. And one day, unfortunately, he passes away, and Cassie turns around and picks up the stuff that he had with him to hopefully give to his family or whatever, and she finds this book, and it has a note to her from Mr. Weber saying, "This is for you," basically. This is the Book of Doors. Pretty much you hold the book and any door becomes every door. So you open the door and you can go anywhere. And it's just about her trying to navigate this new thing that she's found in this new world that she's discovered. There is a really nice found family aspect to this book. It's very heartwarming, even though some of the stuff that happens is quite gory. But at the same time, this book to me feels like a heartwarming book overall. Pretty good plot twists as well. Some things that I did not see coming or didn't expect to happen. So yeah, I loved this. I had a lot of fun, and I would definitely recommend it. And on that note, I think I forgot to mention at the beginning of the video that I actually completed my entire TBR for January and February. All 8 books that I picked, which I am very happy with. And then I read a further 8 more, which is wild. Anyways, that's all from me for today. Leave a comment as to what your favorite book was of the last couple months. I'd be very interested to know. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. I'm so glad you're here, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.
Boring, yawning, sloppy, lazy.